how to become invisible when the world has ended, and more importantly, why being seen will get you killed. The grey man concept isn't some tactical buzzword cooked up by weekend warriors. It's evolutionary psychology meets urban camouflage meets behavioral science. It's the difference between walking past a checkpoint untouched and being randomly selected for a search that ends with you face down in the dirt while someone else claims your 72-hour pack. The US Army's FM 3-05 Survival Manual dedicates entire sections to evasion techniques based on these principles because they know, in a world without law, attention equals death. Here's what's coming in the next minutes. 3 ironclad rules for becoming invisible in plain sight. Not 3 suggestions, not 3 good ideas, 3 non-negotiable laws that separate survivors from statistics. Break even one and you're done. Follow all 3 and you might make it past the first 2 weeks when 70% of unprepared people become casualties according to FEMA disaster response data. We're covering why your tactical mindset is a liability, how your brain's pattern recognition is working against you, and the uncomfortable truth about why your neighbors are already sizing you up. We'll break down the psychology of predator selection, the physics of threat assessment, and the real-world application of environmental adaptation. And before you click away thinking this is paranoia, Hurricane Katrina 2005. Law enforcement officers documented over 800 incidents of armed looting and violence in the first 72 hours. Texas ice storm 2021. Neighbors were robbing neighbors for generators within 48 hours. Sri Lanka economic collapse 2022. The middle class became targets for organized theft within 1 week. This isn't theory, this is pattern recognition based on every single societal disruption in modern history. Your suburban fantasy of bugging out to the woods, it's adorable. The real threat is the 300 million people around you who didn't prepare, and they're about to realize you did. The grey man doesn't win gunfights. The grey man never has them in the first place. He's the guy who walked right past the checkpoint while you were getting zip-tied. So here's the promise. Master these 3 rules and you become a ghost invisible, unremarkable, forgettable, the person nobody notices, nobody remembers, and nobody targets. Break them, and you're just another cautionary tale for the people smart enough to learn from your corpse. Let's begin. Rule number 1. Eliminate all identifiers. Hour 6 after the grid goes down, the guy 3 houses over, let's call him Mike, is standing in his driveway in full multicam, plate carrier loaded with AR mags, tactical beard groomed to perfection. He's doing a radio check on his Baofeng, calling out his call sign like he's operating in Fallujah. 20 people heard that transmission, 15 of them just added Mike to their list. Not because Mike's a threat, because Mike just advertised he has resources, training, and gear worth taking. By hour 18, Mike's house has been probed twice. By day 3, Mike either abandoned his fortress or he's defending it in a siege he mathematically cannot win. Mike forgot the first rule. You cannot blend in while simultaneously broadcasting your capabilities. The psychology of predator selection. Here's what your brain doesn't want to accept. Human threat assessment works on a profiling system honed over millions of years. Predators, whether lions on the savannah or looters in a collapsed suburb, target based on 3 criteria: visibility of resources, perceived ease of acquisition, and estimated reward-to-risk ratio. That's not opinion. That's documented in every criminology study from the University of Cincinnati's research on target selection to the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit reports. When you wear tactical gear, display weapons, or show prep indicators, you're not deterring attacks. You're advertising a high-value target that promises a significant reward. The math changes when people are desperate. A group of 4 hungry people will absolutely attack a lone person with visible supplies if they calculate the risk is worth it. They're not thinking about you as a person. They're thinking about you as a resource node, like a loot crate in a video game. And here's the brutal part. The more you look like you know what you're doing, the more valuable you become. That's the paradox. Your tactical training, your visible preparedness, your don't tread on me patches, they all mark you as someone who solved problems they're facing. You have water purification, you have food stores, you have weapons. Congratulations, you just became the solution to their problems, and they'll take that solution by force if necessary. A study from the University of Portsmouth on post-disaster looting behavior found that 73% of theft targets were selected based on external indicators of preparedness, not random chance. Targeted selection based on visible cues. The fix, identity elimination protocol. Strip every single identifier from your person, your vehicle, and your home that suggests capability, resources, or preparedness. That means your tactical gear stays hidden. Your NRA sticker comes off your car. Your Gadsden flag comes down. Your security cameras get covered or repositioned to look non-functional. You become aggressively average, boring, forgettable. The neurological basis for this is simple. The human brain is a pattern-matching machine that filters out routine and highlights anomalies. You want to be routine. You want to be the neutral-toned background noise that doesn't trigger the threat assessment subroutine in other people's brains. Clothing, neutral earth tones, greys, browns, navy, muted greens that match your environment. Not matching like camouflage, matching like every middle-aged dad at Home Depot. Avoid black, stands out at night under any light source. Avoid pure white, reflective and attention-grabbing. Avoid patterns that break up your silhouette in urban environments. Your clothes should be worn but not ragged, clean but not pristine. The goal is, looks like everyone else who's been wearing the same outfit for 3 days because laundry isn't working. No logos, no brands, no text of any kind. A study by the Journal of Environmental Psychology found that people could recall and describe individuals wearing branded clothing with 64% accuracy after brief exposure versus 23% for unbranded neutral clothing. That difference is survival. Gear carry method. Everything goes internal. Hidden pockets, inner waistband, concealed beneath layers. If you're carrying a bag, it needs to be the most generic, beat-up backpack or messenger bag possible. The kind that looks like it contains a laptop and maybe a lunch, not supplies. Better yet, no bag at all if you can manage it. Use cargo pants with internal magazine pockets. Use a lightweight concealed vest under a jacket. Use ankle carry for small items. The second someone sees a tactical sling pack or a molly-covered assault pack, they're mentally calculating what's inside and whether they can take you. Vehicle modifications. This one hurts, but it's critical. That lift kit, that winch, those off-road tires, those aftermarket lights, they all scream, I can go places and carry things. Strip them or cover them. Let your vehicle look like it barely runs. A strategic application of dirt, a dented fender, a cracked tail light, these things make you look like you're struggling, not thriving. Park strategically with the nice side hidden. Consider a deterioration disguise. Make your functional vehicle look non-functional. Predators target the strong, not the weak. They want easy resources, not charity cases. Home exterior. Your prepper paradise needs to look like everyone else's disaster. Trash in the yard? Leave it broken fence, don't fix it. Boarded windows? Make them look haphazard and desperate, not fortified and prepared. The psychology here is crucial. You want to project victim of circumstance, not hardened target. Because here's the dark reality. A hardened target attracts coordinated group attacks. A victim of circumstance gets ignored. FEMA's post-Katrina analysis showed that homes displaying clear fortification or resource security were 3.4 times more likely to experience violent confrontation than homes that appeared already ransacked or abandoned. Remember The Walking Dead? Rick's group spent the first season running from place to place because they couldn't stop looking like survivors with resources. The wolves targeted Alexandria specifically because it looked organized, secure, and supplied. Meanwhile, the most successful long-term survivors were the people nobody noticed, the folks who looked like struggling victims until you got close enough to realize they were thriving quietly. Learn from Alexandria, be invisible, not invincible. The brutal one-liner, your identity is a luxury you can't afford when everyone around you is a threat assessment away from becoming your executioner. Rule number 1 continued, the behavioral camouflage. How you move determines if you die. Day 2, the power's still out. You need to make a supply run to that cache you stashed 3 blocks away. Smart move having the cache, gold star for preparation. But here's where 90% of preppers fail. They move like they're on a mission, purposeful stride, head on a swivel, constant scanning, hand resting near concealed carry, eyes hard and alert. You think you're being tactical. What you actually are is a neon sign that reads, I have somewhere to be and something to protect. The human eye detects purposeful movement at significantly greater distances than aimless wandering. It's hardwired into our predator-prey detection systems from when saber-toothed cats were the problem instead of desperate neighbors. And there you are, moving like a person with a plan, while everyone else is shuffling around confused and directionless. Congratulations, you just made yourself memorable to everyone who saw you, and at least 2 of them are now following you to see where you're going. The science of movement recognition. Biological motion perception, the ability to detect and interpret movement patterns, is one of the most primitive and powerful aspects of human cognition. Research from MIT's Department of Brain and Cognitive Sciences shows that humans can identify specific individuals by gait alone with up to 90% accuracy at distances of 100 meters. More critically, we can distinguish between casual movement and goal-oriented movement in as little as 0.3 seconds of observation. That's faster than conscious thought. Your brain does this automatically, constantly scanning for anomalies in movement patterns. When everyone around you is moving slowly, confused with frequent stops and direction changes, disaster shuffle, and you're cutting through with purpose and speed, you're an anomaly. Anomalies get attention. Attention gets you killed. The psychology goes deeper. Confidence in movement signals resources and capability. It's the same reason lions target the limping gazelle. The one moving differently from the herd is either sick or acting on information others don't have. In a disaster scenario, acting on information means you're ahead of the curve. Being ahead of the curve means you prepared. Preparation means resources. Resources mean you're a target. A University of Chicago study on post-disaster behavior found that individuals displaying purposeful navigation in chaotic environments were 4.2 times more likely to be followed, questioned, or confronted than those displaying environmental uncertainty behaviors. Translation: looking like you know where you're going makes you interesting to dangerous people. The behavioral camouflage fix. You need to adopt the movement patterns of the unprepared masses while maintaining your actual tactical awareness. This is acting, and your life depends on the performance. First, slow everything down. Your natural pace is too fast because you're not panicking, you have a plan, but everyone else is panicking or depressed or confused. Match that energy. Walk 30% slower than your comfortable pace. Add hesitation. Stop occasionally and look around like you're lost or uncertain, even though you know exactly where you're going. Check your phone, even though it's dead, like you're hoping for a signal. These are the behaviors of the unprepared, and they make you invisible. Second, eliminate the tactical scan. Yes, you need situational awareness, but the head on a swivel security sweep screams training. Instead, use environmental awareness techniques. Pause at corners and pretend to tie your shoe while scanning in your peripheral vision. Use reflective surfaces, car windows, storefront glass, to monitor what's behind you without turning around. Stop occasionally and lean against something like you're tired, using that pause to assess your environment. Your awareness needs to be omnidirectional, but your indicators need to be zero. Think of it like this: you're a submarine running silent, all sensors active, zero emissions. Third, adopt protective stupidity behaviors. Look confused occasionally. Take a wrong turn and correct it. Ask someone a question you already know the answer to, not about supplies, something innocuous like, "Do you know if the pharmacy is open?" These interactions make you seem like everyone else, lost, confused, seeking help. They also give you intel on how that person is thinking and what threats they might pose. The key is that these behaviors must look genuine. Half-assed acting gets you caught. Method acting keeps you alive. Fourth, manage your micro-expressions. Your face is giving you away. When you see a threat, your face hardens. When you spot a resource, your eyes focus. When you recognize danger, your jaw clenches. All of these are readable from 20 feet away by anyone who's paying attention, and trust me, people are paying attention now. Practice neutral face, slightly slack, mildly concerned, generally anxious but not specifically alert, the 1,000-yard stare of someone overwhelmed, not the calculated assessment of someone in control. Look at disaster footage from any major crisis. The people who survived the first week all have that same glazed, exhausted expression. That's your mask. Timing and pattern disruption. Never take the same route twice. Never leave at the same time. Never establish a routine that can be observed and predicted. Predators hunt patterns. A study from the National Institute of Justice on residential burglary found that 87% of victims were under surveillance for 3 to 7 days prior to the attack, with pattern recognition being the primary factor in timing selection. After a collapse, this same psychology applies to person-to-person targeting. If you leave your house every morning at 7 a.m. and return at 8 a.m., someone's going to be waiting at your house at 7:05 a.m. on day 4. Randomize everything. Leave at different times. Take unnecessarily long routes. Double back. Use different exits from your property. Make yourself unpredictable while maintaining the appearance of someone who's just wandering aimlessly. Group movement dynamics. If you're traveling with family or a group, you cannot move in a tactical formation. No diamonds, no wedges, no overwatch positions. You move like a scared family, clustered close, frequently stopping to discuss, occasional arguments about which direction to go. The body language needs to read as, we're together because we're afraid, not, we're together because we're trained. Kids should look scared, not disciplined. Your partner should occasionally grab your arm like they're worried. These are the movements of civilians in crisis, and that's what you need to project. Remember 28 days later, the infected could track Jim and Selena because they moved with purpose. They were going somewhere specific. But when they finally blended into the refugee crowd moving toward the supposed sanctuary, they became invisible because their movement matched everyone else's. Or look at A Quiet Place. The Abbott family survived not just by being silent, but by moving like the environment. Slow, natural, non-threatening. The aliens hunted sound, but humans hunt difference. Be the same as everyone else in your movement signature. The dark truth about behavioral camouflage. You're essentially gaslighting everyone around you into thinking you're as helpless as they are, while you're actually operating from a position of strength. It's manipulation, it's deceptive, it's also the only way to move through a hostile environment without being targeted. Every intelligence operative, every undercover agent, every person who's ever survived behind enemy lines has mastered this skill. You're not in enemy territory yet, but give it 72 hours and your neighborhood will be exactly that. The brutal one-liner. The fastest way to a destination in a collapsed society is to look like you have nowhere to go. Rule number 2, control your resource signature. Week 1. Your neighbor, let's call her Karen because the universe has a sense of humor, is running a generator. You can hear it from 3 blocks away, that distinctive gasoline engine purr echoing through the silent neighborhood like a dinner bell. She's got her lights on, you can see the glow from her windows, and God help her, she's got her air conditioning running because she can't sleep when it's hot. By hour 36 of that generator running, Karen has been visited 11 times by people just checking if she's okay. By day 3, someone jimmied her back window while she slept. By day 5, a group of 6 people showed up with a story about a sick child who needs power for medical equipment. Karen, being a decent human, let them in. They didn't leave. Karen's now a refugee in her own home, if she's lucky. If she's not lucky, well, she's a cautionary tale about how resources make you a target more effectively than a bullseye painted on your back. The physics of detection. Energy signatures are detectable at absurd distances. Light pollution from a single illuminated window can be seen from over a mile away in darkness. It's basic photon propagation and the inverse square law. Sound from a portable generator, typically 65 to 75 decibels, carries clearly in quiet environments for 800 to 1,000 feet. Further, if there's no competing noise pollution, thermal signatures from HVAC exhaust, cooking smoke, or even just the heat differential of an occupied warm house versus unoccupied cold surroundings, these are detectable with handheld thermal optics at ranges exceeding 500 meters. And here's the kicker. In a grid-down scenario, all the background noise that normally masks these signatures disappears. No traffic, no ambient city hum, no electrical interference, just silence. And in that silence, your comfort becomes a broadcast signal announcing your capabilities to everyone within detection range. The chemistry of olfactory signatures is equally damning. Cooking food produces volatile organic compounds that can be detected by the human nose at concentrations as low as parts per billion for certain molecules. That bacon you're frying because you've got propane and everyone else is eating coal cans? The aroma carries downwind for a quarter mile in ideal conditions. It's called a diffusion and concentration gradient, and it doesn't care about your perimeter security. You can't shoot a smell. You can't barricade against hunger-induced scent tracking. Humans have 400 different olfactory receptors and can distinguish between trillions of unique smells. When everyone around you is hungry and you're cooking, you might as well be ringing a dinner bell. The thermodynamics of stupid decisions. Heat and cold kill more people in disasters than violence, which makes climate control tempting. But here's the brutal calculation. Running heat or AC requires massive energy expenditure, which creates multiple detection signatures, generator noise, exhaust heat, fuel combustion byproducts, the visible steam from temperature differentials when it's cold outside and warm inside. Every single one of these is a pointer arrow saying, resources here. The human body can survive in a surprisingly wide temperature range with proper clothing and techniques. 20 degrees Fahrenheit to 90 degrees Fahrenheit with appropriate adaptation. Discomfort is not death, but being targeted because you couldn't tolerate discomfort, that's definitely death. The resource control fix, complete signature suppression, starting with power generation. If you absolutely must use a generator, it goes in a soundproofed enclosure, underground if possible, with exhaust vented and diffused through a baffled system that disperses heat and sound. Better yet, don't use a generator at all. Solar panels with battery storage, but here's the critical part. Deployed and used before the collapse so they're not a new visible addition, or deployed hidden from view. Roof mounted on the non-street side, positioned behind fencing or foliage. No visible panels means no visible capability. Portable solar to charge essentials in concealed locations during daylight, used at night when the energy signature is lower. Think watts, not kilowatts. A 100-watt panel can charge phones, radios, small batteries, survival level, not comfort level. Lighting protocol, blackout conditions after dark. Not one photon escapes your structure. Blackout curtains aren't enough because light leaks around edges. You need window coverage with zero gaps, foam board cut to fit, garbage bags duct taped with overlapping seams, moving blankets hung on the inside. Interior navigation uses red light headlamps on minimum setting, never white light. Red preserves night vision and is less detectable through accidental cracks. Better yet, learn to navigate your space in complete darkness. Your home should be memorized. Furniture positions, step counts between rooms, location of supplies by touch. The US military trains for this because it's a survivable skill. Cooking without signatures. Cold food is your friend for the first 2 weeks minimum. No cooking unless you can completely suppress the signature, which means Dakota fire holes if you're outside. A dual-chamber underground system that produces minimal smoke and no visible flame. Or interior cooking with proper ventilation that disperses heat and smell. Pressure cookers reduce cooking time and therefore smell or heat duration. Thermos cooking. Boil water once quickly. Pour over food in an insulated container. Let it cook over hours using retained heat. No continuous energy signature. Your diet shifts from hot meals to calories per convenience. This isn't about taste, it's about not advertising that you have food to prepare. Temperature management without HVAC. Layer systems for cold, proper base layers, insulation layers, outer wind barriers. One person in proper clothing uses zero detectable energy and maintains core temperature. The human body is a 100-watt heater. Proper insulation retains that. For heat, ventilation, and hydration. White roof coating or reflective barriers to reduce solar heat gain. Cross ventilation creates airflow without mechanical systems. Underground spaces for temperature stability. Basements average 55 degrees Fahrenheit year-round in most climates regardless of surface conditions. Adapt your activity schedule. Slow down in heat, increase movement in cold. This is 10,000 years of human survival before electricity, and it works. Waste management signatures. Trash accumulation visible outside screams. People are consuming here. Burn what's burnable in suppressed fires. Bury what's not in deep holes away from your location, never in an obvious trash pile. Grey water from washing gets dispersed through soil infiltration, not dumped where it creates muddy signatures. Black water, sewage, goes into properly managed composting systems or buried in caffuls minimum 200 feet from your location. Smell from waste brings attention. Visible waste piles indicate occupancy and consumption. Both are detection vectors. The stockpile paradox. You prep for months or years to have supplies, but displaying those supplies for even 30 seconds gets you robbed and possibly killed. Every item you use must be used covertly. Opening cans? Do it inside with sound suppression, cloth-wrapped can opener, or pre-opened and resealed before the collapse. Packaging disposal? Shredded and buried, never visible in trash. Inventory access? Internal only, never bring supplies out where they can be observed. Your 3-month food storage is worthless if day 4 someone sees you carrying a case of something and decides they need it more than you do. Remember the road? Cormac McCarthy understood this perfectly. The protagonists survived by being invisible. They hid their cart, they moved at night, they never showed abundance. Every time they encountered someone openly displaying resources, that person was either about to die or was bait for a trap. Or look at Fallout 4's settlement building mechanics. The more prosperous your settlement looked, the more often it got raided. The game literally taught you that visible success breeds attacks. That's not game logic, that's human nature modeled accurately. The uncomfortable truth: you will be cold sometimes, you will be hot sometimes, you will eat food you don't enjoy in the dark, you will be uncomfortable, but uncomfortable and alive beats comfortable and dead. Every resource signature you emit is a probability calculation moving in the wrong direction. Zero signatures mean zero attention. Zero attention means you continue existing long enough to see the other side of this crisis. The brutal one-liner: your comfort is a countdown timer to when someone kills you for the privilege of being uncomfortable in your house instead of theirs. Rule number 3, master social camouflage. Day 4, your neighbor Dave stumbles over to your porch. Dave looks like hell, unshaven, exhausted, that 1,000-yard stare of someone who just realized his entire comfortable existence was built on infrastructure that vanished in 72 hours. "Hey man," Dave says, "you doing okay? You seem calmer than everyone else." And there it is, the probe, the test, the question that's actually 12 questions wrapped in casual conversation. Dave's asking if you prepared. Dave's asking if you have supplies. Dave's asking if you saw this coming. And here's where most preppers fail catastrophically. They either lie so badly it's obvious, or worse, they tell the truth because they think honesty builds trust. Let me be crystal clear. Honesty in a collapse scenario is a luxury that gets you killed. Dave doesn't need to know you've got 3 months of food. Dave needs to believe you're exactly as screwed as he is, maybe slightly more screwed, so he writes you off as a resource and moves on to better targets. You look at Dave with tired eyes and you say, "Man, I don't know, we're trying to make the canned stuff last, but..." And you trail off with a headshake, vague, concerned, implying scarcity without specific details. Dave asks if your pipes are working. You say, "Getting some drips from the tap, but I don't trust it." Even though you've got 200 gallons in hidden barrels, Dave mentions he heard generators running. You say, "Yeah, lucky them. My generator's been broken for months, been meaning to fix it," even though you never owned one because you knew they'd be suicide devices. Dave's getting the message. You're not a resource, you're another mouth worried about where the next meal comes from. Dave leaves. Dave doesn't come back. Dave tells other people you're struggling too. Congratulations, you just weaponized perception management, and it might have saved your life. The psychology of social engineering. Human beings are tribal pattern recognition machines running on incomplete information and filling the gaps with assumptions. When someone assesses whether you're a threat or a resource, they're operating on limited data points gathered through conversation, observation, and inference. The cognitive bias at play here is called the anchoring effect. The first piece of information someone receives about a topic heavily influences all subsequent judgments. If the first thing someone learns about you is struggling just like me, that becomes their baseline assessment. All future observations get filtered through that lens. A study from the University of Amsterdam on trust formation in resource-scarce environments found that initial self-disclosure of vulnerability increased trust ratings by 67% and decreased targeting probability by 54%. Translation: appearing weak and struggling makes you an ally, not a mark. But here's the advanced psychology. You can't just lie about everything because humans have evolved lie detection mechanisms that operate subconsciously. Micro-expressions, voice stress patterns, body language incongruence. These leak the truth even when your words don't. Research from the Paul Ekman Group shows that trained observers can detect deception with up to 90% accuracy by reading involuntary physical cues. The solution isn't better lying, it's truth-wrapped deception. You tell true stories about struggles that aren't your current actual struggles. We're rationing the food in the pantry is technically true if you've got a decoy pantry with limited supplies for show. Water's getting low is true if you're specifically talking about the water in your visible storage while ignoring your hidden reserves. You're not lying, you're selectively defining the scope of truth. The strategic vulnerability fix: create a cover story that's verifiable and consistent, built on real struggles that make you relatable and non-threatening. The story needs layers: your current struggle narrative, water rationing, food uncertainty, medical concerns, your preparation failure narrative, should have prepped but didn't, this caught you off guard, kicking yourself for not taking it seriously, and your resource limitation narrative, had some stuff but already used it up, didn't stock enough, made stupid decisions. These stories need to be consistent across all interactions and across all members of your household if you have one. Rehearse them, live them, method, act them until you could pass a polygraph. The decoy resource strategy: maintain visible, minimal supplies that match your cover story, a nearly empty pantry with a few cans visible when someone looks in. A half-empty water jug on the counter, generic struggling person indicators that confirm your narrative. If someone breaks in, and you should assume they might, they find exactly what you said you had. Very little. Meanwhile, your actual supplies are behind false walls, under floors, in buried caches, anywhere that requires specific knowledge to access. This is the same principle intelligence operatives use with clean apartments. The surface layer passes inspection while the real operation happens in hidden infrastructure. Conversation control techniques. Every interaction in a post-collapse scenario is an intelligence gathering operation where both parties are probing for information while protecting their own. You need to master these skills. Reciprocal disclosure. Someone shares their struggle, you share an equally vulnerable sounding struggle. Strategic questioning, asking about their situation while revealing little about yours. Emotional mirroring, matching their energy level and concerns to build false rapport. And topic redirection, steering conversations away from dangerous subjects toward neutral ground. The goal is that every conversation ends with them having told you useful intelligence while believing they learned you're not worth targeting. Never discuss your preparation activities, past or present, your supply levels, real ones, your skills and capabilities, medical, mechanical, tactical, your awareness of threat, appearing too aware marks you as trained, or your future plans, where you might go, what you might do, who you might meet. All of these are intelligence goldmines for people assessing whether you're valuable enough to rob or coerce. Instead, discuss general concerns about safety, worry about family, uncertainty about the future, small everyday frustrations, boring, normal, forgettable. The group dynamics trap. In disasters, ad hoc community groups form rapidly. Neighborhood watches, resource sharing networks, mutual aid collectives. These sound good, they're usually death traps. Why? Because group membership requires disclosure of capabilities and resources. We all share what we have means revealing you have something to share. Everyone contributes their skills means advertising your skill set. The psychology of in-group preference creates pressure to reveal and contribute, while the reality of resource scarcity means the group will eventually fracture into factions competing for limited supplies. Your contributions become targets. Your skills become expected services you're obligated to provide, and when the group fractures, and it will, everyone knows exactly what you had and where you kept it. The fix for group pressure, polite declination with vulnerability framing. I'd love to help, but we're barely hanging on ourselves. I don't have skills that would be useful. We've got our own family to worry about first. If pressed harder, participate minimally with decoy resources, bring a few cans to the community pool while keeping your real stash hidden. Offer basic labor while concealing your actually valuable skills. Appear to be a net drain on group resources rather than a contributor, making you unattractive for continued group membership. You want to be the person they eventually stop inviting because you're not providing enough value. That's success. The informant problem. In every disaster, some people survive by becoming informants, trading information about others for resources or protection from stronger parties. They're the ones paying attention to who has what, who's doing well, who's struggling less than they should be. They're dangerous because they turn your entire community into a surveillance network counter-strategy. Feed them false information intentionally. Mention you're almost out of water in their presence. Ask to borrow things you don't actually need. Display visible deterioration in your situation. Lose apparent weight. Look more exhausted over time. Wear increasingly shabby clothes. Make yourself a bad intelligence report so when they pass information up the chain, it's that guy's got nothing. Remember The Walking Dead's Alexandria versus the Saviors. Negan's whole operation was built on intelligence about who had what. He sent scouts, he asked questions, he built a network of informants. The communities that survived longest were the ones who appeared to have nothing worth taking, while the ones that displayed prosperity got tribute demands and eventual raids. Or look at the film Children of Men. Theo survived by appearing to be nobody special, no resources, no capabilities, just another refugee. The moment anyone realized he was protecting something valuable, he became a target. Social camouflage meant looking like collateral damage, not a prize. The moral injury factor. Here's the part that's hardest for good people to accept. You will lie to people who need help. You will look someone in the eye who's genuinely struggling and you will tell them you can't help because you're struggling too, even though you've got supplies that could ease their suffering. You will watch neighbors go hungry while you eat in secret. This creates what psychologists call moral injury. Psychological damage from perpetrating or witnessing acts that violate your moral code. It's real. It's documented extensively in combat veterans. It's also survivable, unlike the alternative of revealing your resources and having them taken by force. You can feel bad about lying later, when you're alive to feel bad. The people who die from generosity don't get therapy afterward, they get buried. The brutal one-liner, the person everyone thinks is struggling just enough to empathize with but not enough to rob, is the person who makes it to month 2, while the honest preppers get stripped in week 1.